So over the last 8 weeks with our group, we've gone through a lot of material. I think in the last session of level 3, when we are doing a bit of review, you may be doing specialness, of course, in this particular session, particularly if those love letters took longer than expected. We don't want to rush those love letters. This last session is really to go through the material that people have covered and to be celebratory about it, really, to be celebratory. They've worked hard. They've covered a lot of material. Some of them may be feeling like they haven't completely grasped it. I think that's okay, because from here they can go to either level 4 or level 5. Level 4 is based on a home project. It was actually devised as homework that people could study at home by themselves. People didn't want to study it by themselves. They wanted to do it in a group. And it's a review. What we do is we go through pretty much all of the skills that they've learned, the big ones, like letting go of resentments, meditation, journaling. And we reorganized all of those activities under 3 headings: authenticity, autonomy, and acceptance. Much more about that when we talk about level 4 in the next training series. But for this point, those were features that we found in a group of people that we interviewed at the Healing Journey who had long outlived their expected survival. We did a lot of this kind of work at the Healing Journey. And the characteristics that they tended to show fell into these 3 categories. This was after a rigorous qualitative analysis with a team of psychotherapists: authenticity, autonomy, and acceptance. I think it's a great level for people to go to when they need a breather, when they need a recap, when they want to revisit it. Level 5 is also open to them. Level 5 is studying Eckhart Tolle's In You Earth with a study guide and leader. It's a book that is not an easy book to read on your own. It's complicated in some places, but it folds into our work very nicely. It sketches onto our ideas very nicely. And we bring to the study of this book icebergs, reaction, response, awareness. All of that material comes alive again when we read this book. Tolle doesn't use those models. We bring them to bear when we teach it. And so after you finish levels 1, 2, and 3, you've really finished the core of the program. And from there, you can go to level 3 or to level 4 or level 5, in order or not in order. It doesn't matter. I think it really depends on what's available. There may also be programs available through Alistair Cunningham, who even at the age of, I think, 82, still teaches online. He may be doing talks, he may be doing programs, and it's worth being aware of those. Sometimes they are online at Wellspring, sometimes not. But you can ask Wellspring what's happening with those programs and offer that as an opportunity for people too. They might do best to finish level 5 if we think about any level 6s. So that's kind of a précis of where we are, kind of an understanding of locating ourselves in the healing journey. So let's have a look. You can use this PowerPoint when you go through it with people, or it's all written in their workbook. You can go through it with that. Sometimes when I teach it, I say, is there anything you want to review here? Is there anything that still feels sticky? So we might do a little bit of work around icebergs, projection. I have an iceberg that I need to have a look at. People will bring icebergs and we'll put them out on the flip chart and everybody will help each other. So your end of level 3 may look like that, or it may look like this. Remember that you're meeting the needs of the clients, of the members. You're being flexible and but still staying true to the material. So let's share screen. So it's the same scale. Remember, the scale doesn't have any real meaning except for the individual who is looking at it and thinking, yeah, I've got some confidence here, I can do that, or not. It also helps people see where they might like to spend more time working on things. Back here, level 1. And it's kind of fun to remind people how far they've come. A long way, baby. Look at this. centering and focusing with the breath, identifying feelings, progressive relaxation, imagining a safe place. Session 2, we talked about sleep routines and nutrition, exercise, thought watching. Boy, we've come a long way with thought watching, expressing feelings, replacing uncomfortable thoughts. That's healthy thought management, deep inner relaxation. All of these skills are probably pretty well established. Healing image of your immune system. Images of the things that you're doing to help yourself. The use of healing light. Now is probably almost a part of their vocabulary. Asking for and support, asking for help and support from others. Notice how we're in that a little bit in our last session, talking about our connection with others. Expressing thanks and gratitude for support and participating in peaceful calming activities. That was a long time ago, but those were the basic skills that they learned way back in level 1, but they're still building on. When we get to level 2, we introduce journaling, reviewing life events, and thought watching. Again, you see the themes are there. Thought watching, encouragement of journaling, meditation. Introducing meditation through 3 ways: counting, using a mantra or a repeated word, and using imagery. I would say that meditation is probably the hardest fit for people. It's the hardest thing for them to get established, mainly because it's difficult and not immediately gratifying. Helping them find resources around themselves at Wellspring or in the community, or using an app. There are lots of apps like Headspace that can help people establish a meditation practice. More imagery for healing, a conversation with the cancer, even drawing imagery, remembering that drawing is in essence an extension of journaling. The inner healer, we kind of talked about the inner healer in session 4 of level 3, when we were looking at the inner mentor, somebody to help us, somebody who has positive regard for our own development. This was a tricky one, imagery for setting goals and priorities. In common parlance, it's the 1 week left to live exercise. Some people found that helpful, no doubt, and other people didn't like it one little bit. But it is a chance to reflect on the priorities that really matter to you now. What really matters? And hopefully the kind of work that we've been doing has been helpful for people. Imagine that. Well, we spent a lot of time identifying resentments in level 3. You can see that that was really the basis for a lot of the stuff that we've been doing. This is where we'll find a Garden Gate exercise. I would encourage people to go back to it, to practice it, to use it. I think I mentioned that often what happens is we have to do the same Garden Gate exercise over and over again until it kind of wears out and you kind of think, yeah, I can let it go. It can almost be a surprise. Feeling a shift in resentments that we carry. Exploring spiritual activities. This is where we're beginning to look at spiritual activities and contrasting it with religion. And we were also trying to bring mindfulness into daily activities. That this isn't something that we reserve, that is actually something that can happen every day. And here we are, level 3. So session 1, we began again to review the idea, the difference between religion and spirituality. And then we extended that and asked people to do some thinking about what their own sense of the divine is and is not, and exploring perhaps how their sense of God or the divine has changed over their lives. And I shared the story of how my early experience was a picture of Jesus in the classroom overlooking us all. And I don't now, as a mature woman, how different that is. A much more felt experience of what spirituality means to me. This is important work here. We were talking about the difference between a reaction and a response, and understanding triggers and understanding our own triggers. So we kind of wanted to make a profile, knowing our own danger zones. Apparently, 4 o'clock or so on a Friday is one of my trigger zones. I have to be careful. I am more triggerable after a long week. Knowing where we might encounter our triggers and being prepared, articulating your triggers, your profile, so that you know what it feels like. And then so you recognize it when you can say, I think I'm getting triggered. I'm feeling triggered. Let me notice the trigger. Awareness of being triggered allows us choices to come down to that reset button to help de-escalate when you're feeling triggered, to move into that response instead of blowing up into a reaction. Developing an inner mentor, very similar to the inner healer, might be the same thing, it might be different. And then beginning to work with forgiveness. And that whole process of acknowledging feelings, trying to understand the other person, and experimenting with techniques such as writing a letter to the other person that you send or not, doesn't have to be sent. Learning to separate the person from the behavior, trying to see them more than just their lousy behavior. One of my favorites, practicing the love channel. One day I will learn to say that without sounding silly, it just feels right. Session 4, we got into our iceberg action. Icebergs are terrific. As I say, people love icebergs. I've seen people at Wellspring on napkins drawing out icebergs, exploring shame and guilt, the difference between the two, and exploring woundedness, that we all have woundedness. That homework is particularly difficult. This is the homework where we're asking people to look at their own sense of self-judgment and their own sense of woundedness. And I often say to people, if you're not ready to do this now, that's okay. You let it go. You can come back to it another time. People who are depleted, people who are struggling may not be ready to do that. And I think that stands with all the homework. Feel free to let it go for a person. Help them make the decision about what's going to be healing for them now. If this homework doesn't fit them, that's okay. It's not a have to. It's something you can come back to when you feel stronger. We had fun with double icebergs. And we looked at psychological defenses, such as projections. We took a run at I messages and active listening. That's a big piece of business. And so really, as a therapist, you're going to be skilled in those. So you're going to be using that all the time as a model and taking opportunities in the group when people are talking about difficulty in communication, helping them identify, gee, well, that sounds like an opportunity for some active listening. What would that look like? Or iMessages, how could you express that as an iMessage to this person? You always have that on your back shelf as a therapist to bring forward to help people manage communications better. We had fun with session 6, conditional and unconditional love, and writing that love letter. That's a real experience for people. As a therapist, I think it's a good idea to keep that as a practice. Do you write it often enough? Remembering that as a therapist, we have to do all of these activities so that we can appreciate what it's like to be asked to do them. So I think that writing a love letter to oneself has real power. It's not something that one just does once. Session, our last one, was appreciating the idea of specialness and thinking about how we are all interconnected, and that how any success anybody has is based upon the success of the others, people around us, the gifts we've been given both by the divine and by others, identifying upon whose shoulders we stand, that sense of connectedness. And then using that understanding to explore a model of the divine and how connectedness is how the divine works. And when we separate ourselves from that, how dangerous we can become, particularly when we are angry and judging ourselves and using that judgment, projecting it onto other people. It's been a very full 8 weeks, and I'm hoping that you as therapists have enjoyed doing it. It can have its challenging moments, but it can also be so exciting. And just as you see with all of these things here that we've accomplished together with the group, you see people grow. You get to see people grow. And that's always most gratifying. So I hope that you're intrigued enough to want to go on to level 4 and 5. I look forward to seeing you there. I want you to take very good care of yourselves. And I want to thank you deeply for being a part of this project and for helping us help other people learn about the healing journey. Take good care of yourselves. You matter to us very much. And we will see you anon. Be well.